Welcome to part 23 of Was I in a Cult? So for a quick recap of where I was in my story, because yesterday I went off on a different tangent, I was at the part where I had finished my Foundations of Faith class and had gotten baptized. So by this time I was almost fully immersed within this cult journey that I was on. So despite all the red flags and all of the research that I did, I was fully convinced that this was the path I was supposed to be on. The pastors and the leaders of that church were very persuasive, and I was convinced that this was my only way to heaven. It also became a very exciting time for me because it was like a time where a lot of people were just investing within me and pouring into me because they seen this potential, and they just were like molding me into, I guess, a leader. And I started to attend these meetings that were for leadership because they were inviting me to come. So after the Foundations of Faith class ended, there was a level 1. So there was like 3 levels altogether. And then like once you pass the 3 levels, then you could like go into like the actual Bible college that was on campus. So by this time I had actually met some people within the church that I started to hang around with that were more of like my peers, right? So I had my leaders, and then I made some friends, and I had started going to Friday night evangelism, and through there I met one of my friends that I became really close with, and she had just gotten out of the women's home, and I don't know if she actually graduated. I'm not sure what the situation was, but I don't think she really left on good terms from the home, but it was like, she was a really cool person. She wanted to become more involved in ministry, and so did I. We shared the same love and passion for evangelism, so we started to hang out. So one of the main things we did is that every single Friday after the prayer service, we would get together with the evangelism team and we would all go out to the streets. And what that means is that we would go to like get in different cars, and we would all drive to like a certain location like Whittier Boulevard, and we would just get off the cars and just all start walking, and we would take bullhorns with us, and we would start testifying and yelling on the street to the cars that were passing by. And I think it's like, I got excited about it because I feel like, I think it was fun for me. It was like a way of going out without going out, if that makes sense, because I was with a bunch of people. I was with a large group of people. We all had like this focus and this goal, and they made it fun for us, you know. They used to really make it fun for the youth. They would we would like go together, and it would be like we were kind of like a little car club sort of thing, you know what I mean? And we would just be like all wearing like the same kind of t-shirts or stuff like that, and it was like, because we were taught that, you know, evangelism and leading people to the Lord was like the main thing that we were supposed to be doing, and basically inviting people to our church and stuff like that. I think like I always like enjoyed that aspect of it. I think it was one of my favorite ministries to do because I love talking to people and meeting new people, and that was a way of doing that, and it was fun for me. I do remember we got pulled over by the cops a few times, and the leader actually got into a little bit of trouble because he took out some of us that were underage. I wasn't underage at the time, but a few of the people were. So they would like talk about enforcing curfew and stuff like that, and I don't know if anybody got a ticket, but like we got warnings a lot, you know what I mean? So we had to be careful, especially if we had anybody with us that was under 18. So it makes sense why we were getting pulled over by the police. I mean, this was like a large group of people. There was usually like 15 or 20 of us walking down a main street, like Whittier Boulevard, which was known for cruising back in the day, and and a lot of, bad behavior was happening at the time too. So, I mean, we were out there looking for the worst of the worst people to evangelize and witness to and help them change their lives. So, of course, the police looked at us and they thought we were a part of that. You know what I mean? And they, because a lot of us still looked like we came off the street and we had crazy looks. So, of course, we were getting pulled over still. At the time, we just like always shrugged it off to like we're being attacked by the enemy. Like the enemy doesn't like us out here because this is his territory and he doesn't want us to reach into the darkness and get these people out of the lives that they're living, and doesn't want us to help people change their lives. So we're being attacked by the police. Like that's kind of the way they made it sound. Like they would use scripture talking about how we'll be persecuted, and that was considered persecution. And we were like supposed to be grateful and joyous for it because we were doing the work of the Lord. Because of where I came from and the party life that I was in already, I had no qualms about going into dangerous neighborhoods where there was a lot of gang violence and shootings and things like that, because that was like my norm before I came to the church. And so now I felt like it was my duty to like go back to where I came from, to pull out those others that are in that situation and bring them to salvation and bring them to our church, basically. Okay, I will say that sometimes I get warm and fuzzy when I talk about this time period of me being a part of this group, because honestly, if you don't have good times at all, like what's really going to motivate you to stay? Like if you don't feel like you're making an impact or you're making a difference, or then what would be the reason that you would stay in a group like this? You know what I mean? I felt like I was making an impact and I was doing my part of making the world a better place at the time. And honestly, I think, there may have been a lot of good that did come out of that. I do know that I did see lives change, and I did see families get out of situations that were really messed up. I seen women come out of abusive relationships. I seen, families reunited with their loved ones, and it was like that was the joy that carried me through all of whatever negative experiences I ever had within that church. And technically that's probably why I stood 12 years, because I felt that this was like my calling in life. You know what I mean? And that's why when I talk about this part, I actually speak a little fondly of it, because I had purpose and I had a vision, and I feel like I was doing something, to create an impact in the world. So this was like the happiest time of my life within this church. But obviously there's so much more to the story. But I will say, creating an environment where one feels that it's their calling and destiny to be there is the main reason why people will get involved in a cult and stay in a cult. And it does sometimes feel like a family. And that's why it's so dangerous. Because that same family that builds you up will tear you down and destroy your life. You lose yourself, you lose your identity, and you could lose everything you have. And the cult calls it counting the cost.